Welcome, gentle viewer, to 7-Trip. This is the report for the week of 21 June 2020. Before I get into the report for today, I wanted to give a quick overview of the rating system that we have for rating stories. So here we have levels 1 through 5. And you can see level 1 are stories that directly impact a small number of people. Level 2 are events that directly impact a narrow portion of the U.S. population. Level 3 are stories that directly impact a widespread portion of the population. And this is the level at which we start to cover stories. If something does not rise to level 3, it just does not carry enough weight to bring to everyone's attention. Then 4 impacts a whole region of the U.S. or regions of the U.S. And then 5 would be something that impacts pretty much the whole U.S. population. Then to capture kind of future predictions or things that we expect may happen in the future, we have this chart here, and this gives us the letter designator. So say a story is level 3, and we expect because of future events it could become a level 5. So we'll say it's a 3 projected to be a level 5, and then we'll have a possibility. So if it's remote in the next few days, then it could be a C. It gives you that band, so it gives us a little bit of wiggle room for what is or is not a level C. So that's a brief introduction into what we are looking at when we come into these stories and how we rate them. And starting this week, we'll give a little overview here of the stories that we've got. We have civil unrest, which has been downgraded, and so it's grayed out. And then we have degradation of law enforcement as a new story. COVID-19 again, of course. Government action is downgraded. Supreme Court ruling is new. And then we have the economy, which is also new. The first story today, civil unrest, has been downgraded to a 2. Current status, while protests continue in many parts of the country, including the Juneteenth demonstrations, the rioting has largely declined. At least presently, it appears that the widespread concessions made by local governments have had the effect the protesters desired. Additionally, the Capitol Hill occupied protest, formerly known as the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, does not seem to be spreading to other locations at this time. Therefore, this event has been downgraded to a level 2. We will keep an eye out for further violent outbreaks and upgrade it if needed. New story today, degradation of law enforcement, rating 3, projection 4 Charlie. Current status. As discussed last week, protesters were making a number of demands from local governments. These demands varied, but consistently included partially or fully defunding the police, instituting police training reforms, reinvesting police funds into minority communities, and dropping charges against protesters. In response to these demands, a number of municipalities have taken action to reduce police funding, most notably Minneapolis, where they voted to entirely defund the Minneapolis Police Department. A number of cities have dropped charges against some or all of those arrested in the protesting, though the federal government has begun charging numerous people for riot-related violence. Additionally, many cities have announced changes in policy regarding police procedures and changes in training, along with President Trump signing an executive order on police reform. There were riots and protests throughout Atlanta, Georgia this week, following the killing of an Atlanta man by police after he resisted arrest during a DWI stop. The Atlanta police chief resigned as a result of the incident. Both officers have been criminally charged, and the officer who fired the shots was charged with felony murder, which carries a sentence of life in prison or the death penalty. 8 officers, in addition to the police chief, have also resigned from the Atlanta police force. These resignations continue a trend we are seeing across the country of numerous resignations by police, citing low morale and lack of political and community support. Analysis. This is a level 3. Due to the negative impacts of the events of the past few weeks, support for the police and police morale have declined across the country. As a result, we have determined that there is an elevated risk of degraded responses to criminal activity in many parts of the country, warranting a level 3. Projected effect, 5 Charlie. If police continue to lose credibility among the public, and if the few cases of police being aggressively charged for conduct in the line of duty becomes a trend, it could significantly deter police from fully executing their jobs. This was observed in the wake of the Ferguson riots in Missouri in 2015. It was a pronounced enough phenomena that it coined the phrase the Ferguson effect, which described police's degraded ability and desire to police effectively. Additionally, there are some concerns that a decreased police presence could result in shipping companies being unwilling to operate in certain regions. In a poll, 3 out of 4 truckers said they would fear for their personal safety traveling through cities with reduced police presence. This could significantly impact economic activity as well as critical resource availability in some locations. Uncertainties. While it is likely that this will have a similar nationwide cooling effect on policing, as in the aftermath of Ferguson, the events are still developing and the reactions of the police and wider society are still unknown. Next story, COVID-19. This is a rating of 5, projection 4 Bravo. Current status. There has been widespread reporting on the spike in COVID-19 cases over the past week. We find this characterization to be misleading. Common interpretations of this reporting would lead you to believe that something had changed, resulting in higher infection rates. We find this to largely not be the case. While it is true that the number of people testing positive has shown a noticeable increase to levels not seen since early May, this increase has 2 major contributing factors. The first factor is that testing has been gradually increasing. Initially, only people who were sick were being tested, so the number of cases represented the number of symptomatic infections. As testing capacity increased, we began to catch many of the asymptomatic infections, thereby increasing the numbers, but not necessarily reflecting an increase in overall cases. Second, when the data is broken out by state, it becomes clear that with the exception of Florida, the states with the highest rates of new infections per 100,000 people are states that have been in a steady increase in cases since the infection reached them, meaning that as local region, they have not peaked yet. An additional piece to support this assessment is that the death rate has not shown any correlating increases to date. This suggests that testing is catching up to more closely reflect actual infection rates, and not that a second wave is hitting us. Another conclusion we can now tentatively draw is that the protests do not seem to have resulted in a major increase in COVID-19 transmission. The locations with some of the largest protests, such as Minnesota, Washington, and Washington, D.C., are not seeing a noticeable increase in cases reported. All of the data and graphs used in this analysis were obtained from the Google COVID-19 dashboard, with data sourced from Wikipedia. We recognize that this is a contentious topic with many points of disagreement. Our goal in providing this analysis is not to promote any specific political position, but to accurately represent the data as available. A study was conducted to evaluate the types of places and activities that present the highest risk of contracting COVID-19 on a scale of 1 to 10. Bars and large music concerts, 9. Sports stadiums, gyms, amusement parks, churches, and buffets, 8. Public pools, 7. Movie theaters, hair salons, and barbershops, 6. Planes, beaches, bowling alleys, and backyard barbecues, 5. Busy city sidewalks and dentist offices, 4. Libraries, museums, grocery stores, hotels, and golf courses, 3. Pumping gas, walking, running, and biking, 2. Restaurants and takeout, and tennis, 1. Analysis. This is a level 5. The risk of infection and widespread economic issues continue to substantially affect most of the U.S. population. Projected effect, 4 Bravo. The results of the past few weeks do indicate that an end to this is possible. As better treatments, vaccines, testing, and risk mitigation methods are developed, our ability to return to a level of normal will improve. Due to the regionality of the outbreaks, we are tweaking our assessment to 4 Bravo from 3 Charlie, as it is more likely that normality will return on a regional basis. Uncertainties. Our ability to evaluate the data is limited, making more precise predictions difficult. As the data is made more readily available and we are able to analyze it, our confidence will improve. Title, Government Action. This is a 2, 5 Charlie projection. Current status. There have been no new moves to distribute additional COVID-19 relief checks, and the federal government has not taken any other widespread action that warrants a level 3+ rating. Therefore, we will stop tracking this on the reports until something happens. News story. Supreme Court ruling. This is a 3. Current status. The Supreme Court, or SCOTUS, ruled on Monday in the case Bostack versus Clayton County, Georgia, that firing someone on the basis of their being homosexual or transgender is a violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This is a wholly new interpretation of the law and may have significant ramifications for employment regulations and what is considered harassment. Analysis. Level 3. The ruling impacts anyone owning or employed at a business under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. It also has the potential to change public debate and general discourse. Projected effect. 3. It is unlikely that this ruling will result in any broader impacts than already outlined. Uncertainties. SCOTUS's decision leaves a lot of unanswered questions as to how the ruling should be applied and what it means for changes to workplace harassment rules. Additional rulings will be needed to determine the full effects of this decision. News story. Economy. Rating 3, projection 5 Charlie. Current status. This is clearly not new to the world, but new to our report. We will continue capturing ongoing events as they come up and as resources allow. In the aftermath of the COVID-19 lockdowns, the economy took a major hit. It has been recovering over the past month as states have reopened, but there are some major impacts to some industries that will likely take much longer to recover. The unemployment rate has dropped from its high of 14.7% in April down to 13.3% for May. Weekly new unemployment claims have fallen to just over 1.5 million last week from their high of over 6 million in early April. Retail sales have shown their greatest jump ever recorded as the economy opens back up. Month-over-month retail sales increased 17.7% in May over April, and another positive sign for economic recovery. While there are some positive signs of recovery, there are some concerns with the quantity of debt being held by many large companies. The debt being held by the companies making up the S&P 500 has tripled in the last decade, despite the economic recovery prior to the lockdowns. The Federal Reserve has also announced that they will begin buying individual companies' corporate bonds, providing additional stimulus to the economy, but also providing a means for companies' debt ratios to get worse. Analysis. Level 3. The negative effects of the economic downturn have been and continue to be widespread. Projected effect, 5 Charlie. Delayed widespread failure due to stresses caused by the lockdown and social unrest could result in an economic decline independent from the first-order COVID-19 effects. Depending on the severity, though unlikely, it could result in a severe recession. Uncertainties. The recovery is new and it is still unclear how much permanent damage was done to the economy or any compounding issues caused by the unrest. For references, see the video description below and the reference notes in the video. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And finally, gentle viewer, stay informed, make good decisions, and have a wonderful day.